Dawn breaks over the camp. The fire is still smoldering from the night before. Animal hides hang drying on wooden racks, a thin ribbon of smoke rising into the cold morning sky. Shadows move by the fire as people wake, one after another. 35,000 years ago, the Ice Age. A small band of hunter-gatherers, 12 people, 3 families. They have no metal, no writing, nothing close to what we would call medicine today. But they have knowledge, gathered over thousands of years and passed down by word of mouth. Which leaves bring down a fever, which bark dulls pain, which mushroom stops bleeding. That knowledge cost human lives. Every mistake, every survivor. Among these people is a young hunter named Kai. That morning he sets out with 2 companions to track a deer. By midday the trail disappears into a rocky ravine. Kai climbs down a slick slope and loses his footing. A sharp edge of stone cuts into his thigh. Blood comes fast, dark and warm, running down his skin onto the frozen ground. The pain hits a fraction of a second after the wound, and it does not let go. The camp is nearly an hour away on foot, and the sun is already sinking toward the horizon. He presses his hand against the wound. Blood seeps through his fingers. It will not stop. He remembers the old woman Mira once telling him, "Press hard, above the wound. Hold on longer than you think you need to." Kai tears off a handful of dry moss and presses it into the cut. The moss soaks up the blood like a sponge. This is no accident. People of the Ice Age had noticed for generations that moss, hearth ash, and spider webs from a cave ceiling all slow bleeding. Their fibers cling together and help blood clot faster. If nothing else is at hand, there is one last method. A flat stone, heated red in the coals, pressed straight against the open wound. This is cauterizing. The pain is almost unbearable. Skin hisses, smoke rises. But the bleeding stops almost instantly. The healers of old knew that sometimes you have to cause pain to defeat death. Kai reaches a stream before dark falls completely. He lowers his leg into the icy current. The water washes away dirt and small bits of grit, the very things that would later turn into infection if left inside. It is cold, but this is better. Water is humanity's first and most accessible antiseptic. Simple, freezing, but it works. Today we would simply open a package of antiseptic, clean the wound, and cover it with a sterile bandage. We would take a painkiller, and within half an hour the pain would fade. But back then, by the stream, in the gathering dusk, Kai had nothing but cold water, his own hands, and the knowledge his elders had given him. By evening he reaches the camp. The elder of the tribe examines the wound by firelight. He says nothing for a long while, then walks to a hide pouch where he keeps his herbs and pulls out strips of willow bark. Willow is one of humanity's oldest medicines. Its bark contains a compound that, thousands of years later, would give rise to aspirin. Stone Age people did not know the word salicylate, but they knew for certain, chew the bitter bark, and the pain grows weaker. The fever breaks. Crushes plantain leaves between his palms and presses them onto the wound, then layers sticky pine resin on top, its scent sharp with pine and smoke. The resin seals the wound like a natural bandage and keeps dirt and insects from getting in. Plantain has been considered a healer of cuts for thousands of years, and not without reason. It contains compounds that fight bacteria and speed healing. The night is hard. By morning, Kai has a fever. The wound is hot to the touch, red around the edges. Today we would call this an infection, and we would give an antibiotic. The danger would pass within a day. Back then there were no antibiotics. There was yarrow, brewed in hot water and pressed on as a compress. There was smoke, which the ancients believed drove away the bad air from a wound, and in a way it worked. Smoke dried the wound out and slowed the rot. Sits beside Kai and begins to sing softly. This is not just ritual. Singing, touch, presence, they lower fear, and fear amplifies pain. The healers of old were not only herbalists, they were humanity's first psychologists. Let him talk. Let him hold my hand. As long as he is here, Kai is not alone in this pain. The fever holds for 3 days. On the 4th, it begins to break. Changes the dressing. Fresh leaves, a little wild honey, if the tribe was lucky enough to find some. Honey is a natural antiseptic, thick and sticky. It keeps bacteria from multiplying and holds moisture in the wound, helping the skin knit back together faster. None of them knew the word antibacterial, but generation after generation, method after method, they worked it out. This works. This does not. This saves a life. This takes one. Every wounded person who survived became walking knowledge for the tribe. Every death, a bitter but essential lesson for those who came after. Kai stands for the first time and takes a few steps, leaning on a stick. His leg still aches, the scar will stay with him for life, rough and uneven, But he is alive. We survived, he thinks, staring into the fire. Modern medicine, with its sterile bandages and antibiotics, feels like something we take for granted, but it grew out of nights like this one, by the fire. Out of bitter willow bark, out of honey on a wound, out of the hands of elders who held the dying and did not let go. We still use substances that ancient people discovered not in a laboratory, but at the cost of their own blood and lives. Kai sits by the dying fire. His leg is wrapped in leaves and resin. The pain has eased a little. He watches the flames. They did not defeat pain. They tore life back from its grip with bare hands beside the fire. If you found this interesting, hit like and tell us in the comments which ancient method surprised you the most.